evening. The news gang is here tonight. Campaigns. Which campaigns? The DP's grand campaign that is yet to start. Are you holding your breath? The endorsement merry-go-round. Who is right, who is left, and who is next? Plus, a bounced date, the Jubilee NDC that never was. Are we missing something? Also on the show tonight, the power, the money, and 47 governments. The report card 7 years later. The memo tonight is that you won't escape the vaccine. How about that? On the kicker, a plea from Kisii Market. Listen to the Mama Mboga as well. Bandits or policemen, the mystery on Yvonne's take. The punchline is Gashuri's State of the Nation. And on the angle tonight, a climate of talk and more talk in Makueni. Are you feeling the heat?
I believe firmly in the vision of the One Kenya Alliance. And I really want to congratulate and really encourage my brothers and sisters in the One Kenya Alliance, because I see the future of this country is in one Kenya, one people, united in strength and purpose, striding forward confidently towards our vision for a prosperous and progressive Kenya. Today, we will boldly and courageously plant the seeds for our present and our future. Hakika tutaweza.
All right, that is Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka. They are speaking today, and we'll speak about that in a moment. But let me acknowledge the sixth gangster at the bottom of your screen, Njoki Shege. Francis, yes. I'm sure you knew I would start with you. Who is endorsing who and for what purpose?
Everybody is endorsing everyone for every purpose. I will say so because today is National Delegates Conference at the Kasarani Gymnasium by the Wiper Party. All those One Kenya Alliance leaders together with the ODM leader were present. A similar script played during the KANU National Delegates Conference at Bomas of Kenya.
Yeah.
A near kind of a scenario played out also at the Ford Kenya Delegates Conference. And don't hold your breath. Even when the ODM National Delegates Conference will be held, the One Kenya leaders will also be in attendance. And it tells me probably something interesting, that everybody launch your presidential bid, get the backing of your party. If there will be a situation that will arise that all these leaders will work together, then they will merge at one point. Does it sound like the 2002 scenario where we saw NEK, LDP merging eventually to join into NAC, the National Rainbow Coalition? It looks like so. Though now the situation is quite different if you compare it to the 2002 scenario. There is also a bit of hard talk. You remember the precursor to this National Delegates Conference was some hard-hitting statements from the ANC members of parliament who are demanding a One Kenya Alliance presidential candidate by the 25th of December this year, failure to which they will seek other friends to partner with. And today, Raila Odinga, the ODM leader, seemed to respond to some of those demands that were made. And actually, a question that was raised by Senator Cleophas Malala of Kakamega, who is a confidant of the ANC leader, on why Wiper was inviting Raila Odinga to the NDC. And this is what Raila Odinga had to say.
Sasa mimi nasema hongera kwa Kalonzo, manake leo tayari ametawazwa kama candidate ya chama cha Wiper. Mimi niliongea juu ya mambo ya azimio la umoja. Azimio la umoja ya kuleta Wakenya kama kitu kimoja. Mimi nina hakika kwa sababu yale ambayo Kalonzo anataka ndio yale ambayo Raila Odinga anataka. Barabara yetu itakutana tena. Hapo mbele barabara yetu itakutana tena.
See, hapo mbele barabara yetu itakutana tena. He was relating to the scenario of 2017 where they worked together. and relating that story of the journey that they have walked together. Even in 2013, though they vied separately, that eventually they ended up almost together. And so when he says, barabara zetu zitakutana pamoja, sounds, reads, smells like a knack of 202.
Joe,
yes,
yeah, the same thing. I'm sorry I interrupted you when he talks about alisema tutakutana pamoja. I remember in June this year, Kalonzo Musyoka, I think he was speaking to NTV when he said that he'll not support Raila in the 2022 elections, and he said he had been humiliated under NASA with him and his core principles, and he was not going to consider teaming up again with Raila Odinga. Remember, they teamed up in 2013 and 2017, and when he spoke there, he said he would rather go back to Sekuru rather than support Raila again. But then now this is a short, 5 months later, that it seems maybe this is changing. But then now when we have all these national delegates conferences and all of these leaders coming to each one, and of course saying, oh, it's a good move and all that, the unity of the party, I think now it's setting the stage for negotiations. I think
amnesia is essential and necessary.
Yes, in politics. Yes, tumesahau. And then I think even as the people, we also forget. You don't remember that this is what so-and-so said a few months ago, that I'll never team up with this other politician, and now a short few months later, when I say there is a hope now they may team up again. One, amnesia. And two, is this the last we're seeing such maybe formations in the offing? I don't think so. Between now and when the final date that IEBC has set for people to decide mnakwamia wapi before the elections, we'll see a lot of movements. But for me, I think what this delegates conferences are showing us, I must say that I was a bit surprised to see how full the Kasarani Gymnasium was. I think there were about 6,000 delegates.
Yeah, from 1,450 wards.
The fact that they were able to mobilize them and bring them and to fill Kasarani grounds, I mean, the Kasarani Gymnasium, historic. Of course, we remember a lot of NDCs have been done there in the past. For me, I was a bit surprised to see the full gymnasium and all that pertained to it. But what the parties are trying to see is we are a party individually. Even though we are part of these alliances, KANU is a party, Wiper is a party, and we are strong enough to be able to bring something to the negotiating table when negotiations begin with the party.
I just wanted to add on to what we've said around the table about amnesia. Certainly, in fact, in that interview that you referenced, Jamila, Kalonzo Musyoka said that supporting Raila in 2022 would make him the most stupid fellow on earth. Some rather strong terms. And I think we said around this table that, he might live to eat those words. And today they, happily embraced. And just to talk about, the theme through all of these national delegates conferences when they're all, sort of coming to support each other. Do you realize about all of them wanting kuwa ndani ya serikali? Nobody wants to be outside. No one wants to be out. Everybody's attending that. In fact, at the KANU NDC, Raila praised Gideon Moi and talked about, the long-standing relationship they've had. And this is something that is not new to this one. I believe in 2017, when KANU's NDC supported the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the time, with Gideon Moi, shelving his ambition for 2022, President Uhuru Kenyatta, was present at the KANU NDC. It was, the UK... President Uhuru Kenyatta promised KANU that they will be ndani ya serikali. Gideon Moi said, we are part and parcel of this government. All of them saying, tutakuwa pale ndani. And it's very interesting that none of them seeks to differentiate themselves from each other. I think today, Kalonzo Musyoka also said that they're going to be building up on the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Really, there seems to be no choice. And so one would wonder, why are we going into an election to choose who from whom when they're all endorsing everyone? And I would differ with Gachagua, not for everything, but for one thing. It's the one seat that they all want to be in. And that just tells you quite a bit. And all of those statements, you see the same rallying call. Hatutaki kuwa nje ya serikali. Tunataka kuwa ndani ya serikali. At one point you have to wonder.
But Yvonne, they usually say serikali ni kubwa.
That's what Moi used to say.
Serikali ni kubwa. Ni kama ng'ombe imechinjwa, kuna mkia, kuna mguu, kuna kichwa, and all of these things. And Linus has been waiting in the wings, quite literally. This is dizzying, and one can't help but get the feeling that perhaps there's a grand master somewhere pulling strings all over the place, because it almost feels choreographed that you would have all of these things happening and all of these people are attending and kind of saying the same things, because in political competition, it really doesn't make sense that, I mean, if you were to convince us that Kalonzo Musyoka is Raila's competitor and this is, you know, Musalia's and whatever, and yet they happily attend all these NDCs, and when they are there, they don't promote their own candidate and they seem to say, yeah, this is the guy.
You see, and that Grand Master is Article 138, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, because it's forcing politicians to cohabit. This is forced. It's been necessitated. What does the article say? The article requires that whoever will be declared president is the candidate that gets more than half
50%
of the votes that have been cast. That is the 50+1 rule. This article, we must celebrate it for forcing politicians to work together, because nobody can be declared president unless you have 50+1 of the vote. And of course, it talks about 25% in more than half of the counties. If you look at the chaos of 1992, and I mean, what I mean by chaos is the sheer number of candidates on the ballot paper. That was informed by the first past the post election, which was simple majority. Remember, former President Daniel Arap Moi was elected with only 36%, and the opposition split more than 60% of the vote between their candidates. Now, this article has forced all these politicians to actually think broadly. Had it not been for that article, all these candidates will actually have been on the ballot. It would have been 1992 all over again, or even 1997 when we had Raila Odinga running, Kijana Wamalwa running, Charity Ngilu was candidate. Everybody was basically trying to, it becomes a fishing expedition. The Constitution stopped that fishing expedition. Make it cheap, work together, try and get numbers that can cross the 50+1 threshold. That is number one in my view. Number two is spiritually. This country is really a two-party system. Spiritually. Because if you look at the ideological differences, there is nothing that separates Raila Odinga from Kalonzo Musyoka from Gideon Moi from Uhuru Kenyatta. They're all the same, basically. And even William Ruto, who is now in UDA, you can just see the traces of our 1960s roots between KANU, which is a conservative party, and KADU, which was sort of liberal. That divide is still there. But here is the situation now, where politicians are not very committed to work together as in one party. And Francis talks about nominations as one of the reasons, and it is a valid reason, because when you look at how nomination of candidates for whatever position carried out in this country, it's so rough, it is unfair, it is unaccountable, so much so that what politicians now do is to basically walk around, each one of them with a briefcase party that gets nowhere until you must attend this delegates conference, endorse your colleague, hope they endorse you in return. You know, it's an endorsement circus basically, because they know on their own individually they are not getting anywhere, but together as coalitions they'll get somewhere. So finally, Joe, on this issue, what you're also seeing here is just a dress rehearsal or the first steps towards something politicians will do next year. And there'll be coalitions, there'll be formations. And in my view, not more than 2 formations that will contest the election next year. So what this is going on, what this is about is basically building relations. I don't know whether this is the Building Bridges Initiative Part 3.
Okay, wait. Let's listen to Ngilu, Mudavadi, and Tuju. I mean, 3 of them basically from 3 different parties, and they all seem to be saying pretty much the same thing at this Wiper NDC.
And I've worked without this OCA leadership sitting here. I have worked with the Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga. My plea to us sitting here is that we will still expect you to continue the talk for the sake of this country.
Mimi nataka nisisitize kwamba tunataka demokrasia idumishwe na tunataka IEBC ipewe nafasi ya kutosha na ipewe usaidizi wowote ambao unahitajika ili uchaguzi ambao utakuweko 2022 usiwe uchaguzi ambao utaaibisha Wakenya na uturudishe kwa njia ambazo hazifai katika taifa letu.
Kuna tumaini. There is hope. Wakati nimeona ndugu yangu GM Gideon Moi, nimeona ndugu yangu Ma-DVD, nimeona ndugu yangu Wetangula, nikaona Mama Rainbow Charity Ngilu amefika hapa, nikaona baba pia amefika hapa. Bas, nyinyi kama wananchi mnafahamu kwamba kama wote wataamua ni Kalonzo Musyoka, tutaenda kulala kwa vile hii maneno tutamaliza mapema.
All right. Kama wote wataamua.
Basi wote wataenda kulala.
I am sure if they were speaking at a Ford Kenya NDC, they would say, kama wote wataamua ni Moses Wetangula.
Basi it will be the same thing. And you know, when we just talk about the choreography, you know, very interesting that, you know, the 3 leaders of the One Kenya Alliance have been trying to shake off the tag, you know, or, you know, the word that they are being pushed by State House and President Uhuru Kenyatta into supporting Raila Odinga. And then here you see the Secretary General of Jubilee Party, which is the President's party, you know, at this. All of these signals. In fact, I think Kanini Kega was at the other one, the NDC for, was it Kanu?
For Kanu, yes.
Yes. And let's also bear in mind, like we're talking about, you know, what we're seeing with these formations. The One Kenya Alliance just the other day had a meeting with the Mount Kenya Forum.
Yes, yeah.
And then, you know, talking of ways to work together. And then you see all of this. So just to say, to add on to what Lina said, that this is all looking very choreographed towards having 2 big formations. The other thing I wanted to say that is interesting to me with all this endorsement is, what is the National Delegates Conference really? Isn't this the highest party organ? Isn't this, you know, the place where you see the party structure, its membership, the party machinery, all of them saying this is who we are as a party, this is what we stand for, this is how different we are from party X, A, B, C, D. And yet that is largely overshadowed by all of these other, you know, party members from and party leaders from other parties who are coming in to, you know, endorse this candidate or to speak about unity. And for me, again, I mean, I think I asked this question time and again on the show, where are the party members? Where is their voice in all of this? Because what you see is all of these leaders. And so after we've seen all of these NDCs to date, what is different from Wiper, between Wiper, ODM, you know, Ford Kenya, KANU, and how are they going to be different from what we have seen over the last 10 years by August 2022? What are some of the ills or the challenges that they're going to resolve from the Uhuru Kenyatta administration? Instead, it's all heaping praises, and it seems to be, you know, this idea of praising and, you know, paying allegiance to the handshake. And so nobody is saying anything different. And so if I'm a voter, the question I'm asking myself is, will I expect more of the same that I've seen from 2013 to date? Or will I see anything different? Some of the things that, you know, a voter might feel the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, you know, didn't do as well as expected. Are they going to expect changes with this one when everybody is singing the same tune from the NDCs that we've seen? I think.
In fact, you spoke of overshadowing. Joe, I'm sorry, we're interrupting you a lot today, Joe, I'm sorry. She spoke about something, overshadowing, that I'd like to mention. And you ask, so what are the NDCs for? And then you ask, so what will be different in the past 10 years? Parties are expected to start what? Having manifestos once they settle and tell us who is where. So will the manifestos, what will be contained in them? Will they be the same things we've seen years back? Because, I mean, history has shown us that a lot of these documents are reproduced, and they are rarely any different from what a different coalition or a different alliance you were part of had in the previous election. But during today's event, Kalonzo actually had a 5-point agenda that he spoke about, talking about if he's elected president, he would push for free primary education, saying that under his leadership, parents will not have to struggle to pay school fees. He talked a lot about he should address the huge public debt and fight corruption. He's saying all stolen money will be returned to the public. He actually made a few points, but again, overshadowed by everything else that was happening around, all these other leaders coming to speak, all of them saying the same thing, endorsing each other, praising each other. So the message that he had, actually, in my opinion, got lost in between that. There was this air of celebration. I think even when ODM leader Raila Odinga arrived, I don't know if you have the clip.
Yeah.
They're all there welcoming him. Charity Gill was there. You know, all the delegates were shouting, welcoming him. It is fine. But then the message of what this NDC is supposed to have been today, the 5 agendas that Kalonzo Musyoka was speaking about, in my opinion, has just been lost in all the drama, in all the speeches, in all the about the shenanigans that we saw today. So NDC, in my opinion, maybe has lost its meaning. And I think it goes to show how fickle our political parties are. We say this all the time, that our political parties are vehicles for election. I think if we had stronger parties with stronger roots, more grounded, some of these organs that are supposed to be the NDCEs would have a bit more significance and importance in the party, especially in the run-up to elections.
Very, very quick. But I noticed something, I don't know if it is just me, that in spite of all of these things that are going on, Musalia Mudavadi seems to have a slightly different tone from what everybody's talking about, the kind of things that he's emphasizing. He's not in all this unity bandwagon that seems to be going on. I mean, even when we listened to him a couple of minutes ago, he's talking about, let's have a free and fair election. Let's make sure that democracy prevails.
Allow
and those
IEBC
sort of
to
things.
do its work.
And it's kind of consistent with what he's been saying, trying to project himself as in some ways different and above the rest, and kind of lends credence to some talk that has been going on that, look, even within OCA, there are people who are more amenable to this whole thing of joining with other people, but there are other people who perhaps quite strident in their push to make sure that they actually go all the way. In fact, when the NC people, Malala and company spoke, when they were talking about the 25th of December, they were not saying, give us any candidate that you agree on. They were saying that if they will not have given us Musalia Mudavadi by 25th of December, then we will actually declare him so and proceed on that basis. So it does appear to me, Linus, you could pick up from this, that Mudavadi and the people around him seem to be singing a slightly nuanced, a slightly different tune from what we are seeing with our naked eyes.
Yes, and I think what the naked eyes should also see is the apparent preparation by Musalia Mudavadi to go it alone. He sounds like, he's always sounding like, I'm going to work with you, but he seems to be leaving those options that will include running on his own quite open. But he may surprise and join either of the formations, because what is happening right now is very quickly the political formations are revolving around William Ruto, the deputy president in UDA, and increasingly Raila Odinga on this other side with the support of Jubilee, support of President Kenyatta and all that. And those two slots seem taken, meaning whoever comes after that will only come as a third force or a third option. Do third options work in Kenya? Not just in Kenya, I mean, even in the United States. There was a time we had a candidate called Ralph Nader of the Green Party. Very reasonable, sounding good and better than everybody else, but he was in the Green Party. And before that, there was Ross Perot.
He got 2%.
He got 2%. Ross Perot actually did better in 1992. and took quite a chunk of the vote from the Republicans, giving advantage to Bill Clinton to defeat George Bush. But there is that futility about this third way. You only make an impression. You don't, and you know, it's not, there is no bronze, gold, silver, bronze in elections. You win or you lose, and that's the tragedy of that. There's something, Yvonne, you are alluding to about parties and structures. One thing we must now make a conclusion about is some of these holding aspects of the Kenyan political architecture, where the leader of the party is actually bigger than the party. It's not the party that is bigger than the leader. And you pick any party, including the very small ones, it will always be the leader first and then the party next. That is why when a leader leaves a party, it collapses. Because it's not supposed to exist independently of the leader. This is a culture we started way back in the 60s when President Kenyatta took over and basically was given the leadership of KANU. Remember, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was gifted the party by James Gishuru. He was the chair, he was the president of the party, and then you come older and you're being given the seat. And then after that, there was also, of course, the Jaramogi saying he cannot be prime minister, our first prime minister should be Kenyatta. Right there began the personality cult, where the leader is superior to party. And when you look at Jomo Kenyatta's style, he really didn't take care of the party. He used provincial administration and his close circle of friends. Whatever he wanted done in parliament, it will be done by Tom Mboya and Charles Njonjo. And it will be done very, very quickly. You don't need a national delegates conference. You don't need clearance of the party. And then came Moi, retained basically the same thing, but with a bit more of color, because he would do the kind of things we saw in Kasarani today. Very, very good show. And under Moi, actually KANU held quite a lot of elections.
He was present in quite literally every part of
yes, they actually held elections, grassroots elections, so that actually real delegates were picked to go to Kasarani. You asked the question, Yvonne, how do we pick the delegates these days? I don't know if media, if even us, whether we actually did due diligence at the gates of Kasarani today, just to check whether each of the thousands of
6,000 of them were not just delegates, but party members.
Actually, not just delegates, but party members of
card-holding members.
And that due diligence perhaps could have checked whether they didn't attend the Ford Kenya one.
Good one, good point.
Or preparing to attend
They could be moving around town, you know, attending every possible NDC.
Yes. And so the bottom line is the leader comes first. The party is a distant third.
And we need to take a break, Francis. So you take us to the break.
All right. And as we do so, I look at two very quick things. Number one, all these delegates that we're talking about, all these parties that we're talking about, except KANU that led us 1992 to 1997, 1997 to 2002, show me any party from 2002 to date that has succeeded itself every 5 years. In 2002, we had NAC. In 2007, we had PNU. In 2013, we had TNA and URP. In 2017, we had Jubilee. Certainly, in 2022, the ruling party will be different from the current situation. So that tells you, or answers the question that Yvonne was asking about the state of our political parties. Number one. Number two, the easy part is to attend the national delegates conferences. That is the easy part for all these leaders. The harder part is coming. The harder part is making that decision that I will shelve my presidential ambitions and support candidate A or candidate B. Pertinent questions will emerge. Number one, if I'm relinquishing my bid in support of aspirant A or aspirant B,
what do I get in
at
return?
What cost? So what is the stake? And the question that will also be asked in reverse is, so if you're relinquishing your bid so that you can support me, what do you bring to the table? Remember, there are only two positions here, the presidential seat and the running mate. Two only. BBI attempted to expand the table in the executive to about 5. But in this case, you're only talking about 2, the president and the running mate. And whichever running mate you pick will have political consequences. Because if you pick a candidate from, let's say, Region A or Region B or Party A and Party B, Party C or Party D will feel, okay, so you've gone this way, let's look for alternatives in this other coalition. So the easier part is attending the national delegate conferences and congratulating those who are being endorsed by their delegates and their parties. The harder part is coming, where people will sit on a table like this and agree to disagree. And that is where some will bolt, join this team, and some will decide to join the other team. This is pre-election coalition. Then there is post-election coalition.
If you don't stop now, we'll agree to disagree. We need to take the break.
Then there is the post-election coalition, where what number of MPs do you bring so that you can be, you can be fixed in a certain position. So we haven't seen anything yet. And so the only thing that we see for now is a break.
Yeah, and even on the show, we haven't seen anything yet because there's more right after this.